Welcome to the Worldwide Doula podcast. I'm Barry, I'm a registered nurse and birth doula, and each week I'm joined by a new guest speaker to talk about all things pregnancy, birth, babies, and parenthood. So it's time to sit back and relax as we get into some juicy topics. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Worldwide Doula podcast. Firstly, I want to just excuse my croaky voice. I'm still recovering, but I'm on the mend. Today, I'm here with a beautiful birth doula, Sammy. She's also a postpartum and prenatal yoga and meditation instructor. She's originally from the UK, but currently living in Indonesia with her daughter in Bali, which is actually thought to be one of the world's wellness hubs. So it's the perfect place for a meditation and yoga teacher, isn't it, Sammy?
Yeah, I cannot complain. I love living here. The energy of the island, there's just something magical about this place.
So today we're going to be talking about how meditation and yoga can help you have a natural birth. There's a huge movement in recent years towards more natural pain relief methods and empowering women to birth their babies and trust in their bodies and the process. There's still a lot of worry and unknown about how to actually go about having a natural birth and increasing your chances of having the birth that you envisioned. So do you want to start by telling us a bit about what natural unmedicated birth actually includes? And maybe we can clarify some common misconceptions people have around natural birth, because there are a few out there.
Yeah, okay, yeah. A natural unmedicated birth is when the mother chooses to totally trust her body and baby and connect with her body and her baby and do what she is naturally made to do. Although we may believe that the hospital is the safest place to have our babies, it's not necessarily the case, sadly, and the system doesn't always have the mother's best interests at heart. So this is when the mother is given space. She's given as much time as she needs to birth. She's not on a time frame like she would be in the hospital.
Birth is not a medical event.
It's not
natural. No. We'd be birthing for years since the beginning of time. And it's about trusting your body, and your baby and your body are meant to be working together. Your baby knows exactly how to birth, and your body knows exactly how to birth, and just trusting that they will work together. Just clarifying, natural birth is not just a home birth. You can still have a natural birth in the hospital, and you can still have interventions that aren't medical, and it can still be a natural birth. Obviously, every birth is different, and what your picture of a natural birth is can change from person to person. And there are so many misconceptions. Like, natural birth doesn't necessarily mean that you don't get any pain relief. It might just be natural forms of pain relief. You can have heat, you can be in the bath, you can be in the shower, you can have acupressure, massage. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is, a lot of women worry about the pain commonly associated with natural unmedicated birth. And I want to know how doing yoga and meditation before the baby comes can help with this pain mentally, physically.
Yeah, it really is about physically relaxing, strengthening your body, toning your body so that you're optimal health, but also mentally too. But it really is about connecting to the natural rhythm of our bodies, listening, connecting with our intuition. We don't all breathe well. We shallow breathe when we're stressed. Obviously, like, breathing is natural, but we're not breathing optimally. And through meditation, more connecting mentally, strengthening our minds and trusting our bodies and believing in ourselves. And for some of us, it might be easier than others, but for some of us, that's very hard.
There's so many great physical, mental, mind, body, soul benefits of doing it. And my mum, she's also a yoga teacher. So I was a little yogi myself when I was your daughter's age.
Oh, nice.
I loved doing yoga. I loved going and practicing with her, and just having that practice, even as a young girl, I found the benefits were just amazing. It makes you calm, decreases your stress, it decreases anxiety, and they kind of go hand in hand. The physical aspects are that they strengthen your pelvic floor.
Yeah, also a big thing is trying to relax the pelvic floor, and that there's this belief that we need to do all these Kegels, and actually that's not a good thing. Obviously, connecting and doing a little bit of work so that you're connected to your pelvic floor and you know what it is and you know how it works, to understand how to give birth, but also learning to release it, because a lot of us hold tension here without realizing. Also, like the jaw, a lot of tension is held in the jaw, which is directly related to the pelvis. So it's learning to always relax the jaw and not clenching the teeth, doing breathing techniques where we do horse lip breaths so that everything's just like completely relaxed here.
There were a few studies that I actually found around this, which I found really interesting, just to support what we're saying. The first one found that meditation and mindfulness before, during, and after birth can reduce fear around childbirth, reduce the pain, medication use in labor, and then also prevent postpartum depression. And the second study that I found was published in 2021, and it found that women who did yoga at least one time a week during their pregnancies, both healthy and high risk. So it looked at both healthy and high risk pregnancies. They actually had a reduced level of anxiety and stress during labor. And they also had a higher rate of vaginal births, shorter labors, and a higher tolerance to pain. So there's less need for medical relief, which
that's really amazing statistics.
Yeah.
Really nice to hear that. Yeah, that's great.
There are so many amazing benefits to doing meditation and yoga.
And not just for the mother as well, because we think we're doing it, for ourselves to remain calm, leave stress. But actually, it transcends down to the baby, and that there's scientific proof, like healthier placenta, then the heart rate regulating, and many health benefits for the baby as well.
So being aware of the stages of labor and what's happening with your body in each stage, and what's happening with your baby as, labor progresses and you get closer to transition and your baby coming out into the world, it's all part of being mindful and being aware of what's happening. How do you think this helps women feel more ready for natural birth?
I think it's very important for women to know what to expect and to understand what happens, and it makes them feel more empowered and more in control during the experience, and not being like, why is this happening? I remember very vividly, which I didn't know about when I gave birth, was what we call the ring of fire.
Oh, yeah.
And this is like when the head is crowning, and it can feel just like a ring of fire. And I remember when it was happening, I was like, why is this so strong, this like burning sensation? I must be tearing a lot. And so it took me out of my trance a little bit, because I was worried about that I was tearing a lot, because I didn't know to expect that. So if I would have known that now, what I know now, we always talk about the ring of fire and explain to our clients how it feels, and even like celebrate it, because it means the baby's very close to coming. And I think it's really important to know what to expect, though, because there's so many sensations. The sensation of feeling like you need to poo when you're close in transition, and this difference between feeling the urge and actually going, and that's something that we talk about quite a lot. So I think it's super important to sort of try to explain what these different stages feel like. Not to be concerned either if there's a delay, that things slow down, and to know that that's also normal, because sometimes your body just needs time, and the baby's kind of playing a game of peekaboo so that you don't tear. So that's fine if things slow down and then start again, and slow down and start again, to just know to expect that these things can happen.
Yeah, and somebody telling you about the stages of labor, again, it's just a guideline. Your labor might look completely different. It's important to know what to expect. Trust your body. Okay, this is natural. This is how it's supposed to be. We've really lost a lot of trust in our bodies, I think. So we already spoke a little bit about breathwork, but I wanted to speak about breathwork as a pain relief, because it is part of meditation and yoga. Tell me how breathwork can be used as a pain relief.
So it really is one of the most powerful tools we have, even if you're not having a natural birth, even just to keep yourself relaxed. And the more relaxed we are, the less painful the experience is going to be. We can get into that state of mind by using our breath, by extending our exhale, and that taps into our parasympathetic nervous system. So we're in that rest and digest state, which is where we want to be when we labour, so that the oxytocin can flow, which is what we need to birth. And the more we can use the breath, the more it is going to be there as a natural tool for us when the time comes.
We're not talking about the breathing techniques that you see in the movies where they're going,
no.
No. It's really long and deep, almost focusing on your breath rather than the pain, and bringing your awareness not to the pain, but to the breath, breathing the baby out.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there's also a bit of a misunderstanding, is there? Like you're not actually just breathing it out. But when you get to the end stages, your body pushes, even if you don't. So even if you're like, I'm not pushing, I have to breathe, just breathe. Your body is naturally doing it. You can't control it. It's like out of your control because it's so powerful. You're not forcing it, because when you force it, that's when you tear, and that's when the baby is deprived of oxygen. Using the breath to ride the waves of the contractions. So when the contraction surge comes and we feel pain, we tense up. So by using the breath to guide you through it, I like to explain it like the peak of a mountain or the peak of a wave.
Yeah, there was something that I saw the other day, and it was this post, and it said, we think about pain in labor as like something that you will just have this constant pain for 12 hours. But it's actually not the case. Most of the labor is actually spent resting. And then as the contractions get closer and closer together, the actual end of labor actually isn't that long.
Exactly. And you have that little bit of adrenaline to get you through the end anyway. So like, even if you've had a long labor and you sort of feel like, oh, it's gone on for days, and even though it might not have been hugely painful at the beginning, it's been so long that you're just so exhausted. But you do find it within yourself to get to the finish line, because your hormones, your body is so amazing that the endorphins and the adrenaline kicks in so that you can finish, get to the last hurdle, you know.
Exactly. And it's normally in these extra long labors where women are just like, oh, I'm so exhausted, I can't keep going. And then starts the cascade of interventions of, I'm too tired, or it's too painful, I need an epidural.
When she's already there, she's already doing it, and she's almost done it. So it's sometimes just at that point that she needs to be reminded that you need to give her some words of encouragement. You know, if you're a birth partner, give her that, saying, you've got this, you can do this, you know, you're doing it, you're there, you're so close. And just reminding her to breathe through it, because sometimes that's when the woman gets like, you know, because of the adrenaline in her body, she, like teeth chattering, feeling nauseous, like wanting to run out the room, you know.
Yes.
Wanting to escape.
It's only natural that you're going to feel a little bit of fear and this sudden feeling of, I need to just go into a small space. Like, how many women give birth in the bathroom because that's the only space in the hospital that they can just shut themselves in. It's natural to want to go into a corner and just hide away from everyone because you're just about to give birth to your baby.
I always say, like, look at what other animals do, and when they give birth, you know, they go to a dark, quiet place where they're going to be they're going to be safe. And you know, we go to a crowded place full of strangers with bright lights and lots of people interrupting all the time. So it's like, no wonder we struggle sometimes, you know.
Exactly. One of the things I wanted to talk about in successfully having a natural birth is making sure that you are comfortable, because as we said, somebody might come in and check your cervix and then it might go from 4 centimeters to 2 centimeters. You can go backwards, and that's why home birth is actually becoming so popular now. And we're not necessarily saying that home birth is the only way to go, but if you do choose to have a hospital birth and you want to still have a natural birth, it's important to know what things you can do to try and get the natural birth that you want to have. And one of the things is knowing your natural pain relief methods, knowing the breathing techniques and the positions and the movement, being able to advocate for yourself, saying, no, I'm not going to lie on that bed on my back. I'm going to move around. I'm going to follow what my body wants to do. Practicing being mindful, practicing not focusing on anything else, just being you and your baby and your process, and that's all that matters right now.
Absolutely. And your birth partner is so important as well, because whether it's your partner or a friend or a relative, making sure you've got the right birth partner who understands what you really want and why, and supports that. Or even if they don't support it, accept that that's what you want and support you, and be your advocate. Because as we were saying a bit at the beginning, if you do decide to have hospital birth and you do want a natural birth, you don't want to be worrying about this as the woman in labour. You want to be going deep within. You don't want to be having to defend your birthrights. So your partner needs to be strong and be your advocate, to stand up for what you want. And if something's being suggested that you don't want, then they need to ask questions, and not just go, oh, okay, well, the doctor thinks it's best, dear, so you should listen to them. Question everything. Don't be afraid to stand up for the birth that you want, because it's your birth. You have the right to have the birth that you want.
Motherly instinct starts before the baby even arrives. You know,
exactly.
It's there for a reason. You mentioned earlier birthing partners and how important they are. What are some things that birthing partners can do to support you through a natural birth?
Obviously, the practical things like making sure she's staying hydrated, giving her some nutritional snacks that are going to help give her energy, especially if it's a long labour. You know, stroking her, gentle kissing, cuddling, all those things. Like if it's your partner, maybe not like a family member, but you know, nipple stimulation, clitoral stimulation. Like people are often surprised when I say this, but this can really help produce the oxytocin. Whispering words of reassurance at the right times, but really listening and looking for her cues. So really responding to her, tuning in with her, you know.
And I think also a huge thing that you can do as the birth partner to help prepare is be there and make the birth plan.
Yeah.
Because then you can talk about what's important for both of you. And at what stage you can support and how you can support. And one huge aspect is having a doula. I've said it in other episodes, they're not there to replace your birth partner, whoever it might be.
No.
Also to provide that education so you can learn about the stages of labor and what's normal and what are your options with natural pain relief methods so that you can achieve this natural birth that you want to have, helping you move better and supporting you in a way that will allow the partner to support you better, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
And even just holding the space is something that I didn't understand right at the beginning when I became a doula. I was like, holding the space, what does that even mean?
Just being there in the room. And if the partner's like, you know, is this normal? They get more scared, I think, sometimes than the woman in labour, because the woman in labour is like going deep within and the partner's not always prepared at how she's going to behave.
I wanted to touch on something that you touched on earlier about breathing techniques and how not pushing and breathing your baby out can actually reduce tearing. I wanted to ask the question and hear your thoughts on how does a natural birth actually help women recover after the baby arrives, because we don't really think about that aspect.
Yeah. So if you've had a natural birth, obviously, like emotionally, you're going to feel more empowered. You're going to recover quicker because you haven't had a C-section, for example, which takes a lot longer to recover from a C-section because it's huge abdominal surgery. So obviously, you still need to allow your body to recover physically, and the postpartum period is so important. We call it the fourth trimester for that reason, because it's really hugely overlooked, and I think it's something I never really understood. And even all my clients, even though I talk to them about how important it is, they still all say that people don't really believe you, or they think you're making a fuss about it.
Yeah.
And then they realize it suddenly hits them on day 4 or 5, like all the hormones, everything, like, you know, lack of sleep.
Yeah.
All the hormones come rushing out. Everyone just is super emotional and overwhelmed. So even if you've had a natural birth, every woman goes through this, really, because it's such a huge transition. It's really normal to have those first few weeks. The hormones are just all over the place. And I was convinced that I could do everything on my own. I was like, I'm such a fiercely independent person. I just didn't think I needed any help. And I was like, yeah, I know it's going to be hard, but I can do it. And it just suddenly hit me. I couldn't do it on my own. It even makes me well up now when I think about it. And I was like, I am going to have to ask for help, which is something that I really found hard to do. I was in a part of the UK where I don't normally live, and I didn't have like my family around, and my partner wasn't there. And luckily, all of these friends, like people I didn't really even know that well, like people from work, colleagues, everyone just came out of the woodwork and started bringing me meals. And I was just like so grateful, so much kindness and compassion. And if I hadn't have had these people around, just some people just coming in for an hour, some people just dropping food off, you need support.
Yeah, support is amazing, and you should have support no matter what kind of birth you have. If you've had a natural birth and you've successfully done it, that is amazing. You are a superwoman. It's a mental game as well as a physical game. You have to really have that mind-body connection. And for all those women who are still deciding whether they want to have a natural birth or not, what advice would you have for these women?
Well, I think do your research. If you are looking at other forms of pain relief or C-section, etc., look at all the risks, the benefits, the long-term side effects, and how it can affect the bonding with the baby. So just look at those before you decide to go down that avenue. And I'm not saying one is right or wrong, because everyone's different, everyone's individual. But just make sure you know all the pros and cons, and never be influenced by what other people tell you. Yes. There's a lot of fear mongering going on and people will tell you their awful experiences of birth and blah, blah, blah. And you know, everyone's different. Everyone's unique. We should never make a decision because our best friend said this. Really try and make that decision, again, being led by your intuition. But at the end of the day, giving birth, you have to go within and make that decision based on your intuition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nobody can make that decision for you.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to experience it, and also be okay with the consequences of your decisions. You know, you only do it once. Each birth only happens once, and it will affect you for the rest of your life. You'll never forget it.
Yeah, it's about you, and it's about your baby. And for those women who are looking for a yoga class or meditation practice to do, is there any particular type of yoga that they should look for?
Yeah, prenatal and postnatal, because they're specifically designed for that. But obviously, if you're just doing a normal yoga class, there's just certain things that you should avoid. So if you can't find a prenatal, postnatal class, then avoid doing back bends, avoid doing deep twists and deep forward folds, and obviously, like, you know, you can't lie on your front. But most yoga teachers will be able to modify it. Some are a little afraid when a pregnant woman turns up in their class because you don't want to be liable for anything. So it's best to obviously find a prenatal class. And postnatally, I just want to say as well that so many women rush back into doing exercise way before they're ready to. So it's really, really important to give your body time to recover properly. And it's recommended for a natural birth 6 weeks minimum before you start exercise. And that doesn't mean going to the gym and doing like planks and HIIT classes, because your body won't be ready for it and actually end up doing more damage, which I did, and ended up with diastasis recti because I went into a strong yoga and did long-term damage. So it's so important to just take it slowly. And it doesn't mean that you can't do anything. You can do your breathing techniques, you can do your core and your pelvic floor exercises like 2 days after birth, but you shouldn't be like hitting the gym.
Everyone's recovery looks different. So you look beautiful and your body is beautiful.
Yeah, honor your body, honor the recovery it needs.
Samantha, it's been so amazing to talk to you today. There's been so much good stuff that we've talked about these topics, and we've covered some really important points. And everyone's birthing journey is different, and they can be really unpredictable. You can plan everything out, but at the end of the day, you have to be resilient for things that don't go as planned. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you. It's my favourite thing to talk about birth.
Yes, me too.
So I could talk all day.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone, you can find Samantha at Mamastay108 on Instagram, like Namaste but with an M. Also, she runs a really beautiful 4-day pregnancy yoga retreat. If you're in Bali and you're looking to treat yourself before your little one arrives, you can find more information on her website, which I'll include in the footnotes below. And if you're enjoying the podcast, make sure to give us a follow and rate the show. And if you know someone who you think needs to hear this episode, give it a share so that we can spread the word and educate more mamas and women worldwide. And we'll see you next Monday for another juicy episode. For more information on pregnancy, birth and parenthood, head over to my website or Instagram at blissfulbirth.co. And just a little reminder, the information contained in this podcast is here to educate and empower and does not replace the advice of your own healthcare provider.